Amen, thank you, and thank you to all members of Prosperous Armenia for hosting us here. Thank you to you, Mr. Tsarukian, for holding this event. And thank you for setting the example you do. It's very easy for a man who's been successful in life to enjoy his successes. We should remember that going into politics is an act fundamentally of patriotism, of public service, of giving something back to the community. And on behalf of all of your friends and allies in the Alliance of Conservatives and Reformists in Europe, we appreciate the example that you set. What is it that makes us conservatives? What makes you a conservative? It's not an especially easy question. Conservatism is an instinct rather than an ideology. Or perhaps it would be better to say that it's an amalgam of instincts. Patriotism, distrust of officialdom, religious faith, belief in tradition, family. It defies easy classification as a doctrine. I can remember the moment that I became a conservative. I can remember it quite specifically. I was 16 years old, and I was listening to a very brilliant philosopher, a British conservative philosopher called Roger Scruton, now Professor Sir Roger Scruton, although he wasn't in those days. And I said to him, what is the role now of a conservative thinker in today's society? And he said, the role of a conservative thinker is to reassure the people that their prejudices are true. And the more I think about that, the more it makes sense to me as a way of understanding the modern world. What sets us apart is that we trust people. We want to work with human nature. We don't think that we have a superior vision that we can impose from above. We don't believe that virtue can be coerced. In every alternative ideology, people genuinely believing in the virtue of their ideals have ended up leading us, at the very least, to oppression and often to prison camps, gulags, or executions, all in the name of imposing on people an ideology that runs counter to human instincts. In even its mildest form, the rise of state power means a diminution in civil authority and in traditional authority. The rise of state power means that there is a loss of authority by headmasters, by clergymen, by heads of families, in order to empower the armies of licensers and clerks and commissars and regulators and commissioners who impose state power on the rest of us. In its extreme form, as I don't need to come to this part of the world to tell you, it leads to tyranny and murder. So, what is it that makes us a conservative? I think the best answer was given by another British conservative philosopher, Michael Oakeshott. He said, to be a conservative is to prefer the familiar to the unknown, to prefer the actual to the possible, fact to mystery, to prefer the near to the distant, the limited to the unbounded, the sufficient to the superabundant, the convenient to the perfect, to prefer present laughter to utopian bliss. There's a paradox in our conservatism. On the one hand, we recognize human frailty. We don't dream of systems so perfect that no one will need to be good, as T.S. Eliot once put it. But on the other hand, we have great faith in the capacity of human genius to transform economies and societies. We know that man is fallen. We know that people are capable of selfish, rapacious, wicked behavior. But we also know that if you unleash the genius of a free people, miracles will follow. And that knowledge, I think, gives us a cheerfulness that is notably absent from the other side. when I listen to the loudest of my left-wing friends, everything about their stance indicates anger, rage, frustration. They want to tear things down. They feel oppressed and victimized, and they can't walk past a statue without becoming upset about it. I think we feel a natural sense of joy and pride and love for our institutions, for our nations, for our families, for our laws. And that makes us enjoy life. My last citation of a British writer, Walter Bagehot, said, "The ethic of Toryism is enjoyment." And I believe that that is fundamental to our approach to politics. My friend Jan Zahradil mentioned the importance of patriotism, and he was right to say that in certain circles, especially where we work in the European Parliament, patriotism is almost a swear word. It's regarded as something that is backward, that is atavistic, illogical, and dangerous. But you, Armenians in this room, you know better than most the importance of the national spirit. 70 years passed between the extinction of the earlier Armenian Republic and the recovery of national independence. And during those 70 years, the most powerful authoritarian state on the planet used all the forces of a police state to try and create a new kind of Soviet identity. And yet the moment that people were free to choose, they preferred to live under their own laws, with people who spoke their own language, with people who knew their songs and understood their ways. You know better than most the price that people are prepared to pay in order to preserve that freedom to live as an independent nation. Without patriotism, without a sense of common identity that links us one to another, you cannot have a successful, functioning democracy. Patriotism is why we obey laws even when we disagree with them. Patriotism is why we pay taxes to support strangers. Patriotism is why we accept election results, even when our parties lose. And that's why I am confident. When I look forward, I feel optimistic for this country, for your party, for the parties represented in our alliance, and for our leaders. Truly, the ethic of conservatism is enjoyment. And if we're pessimistic about the nature of man, we're optimistic about the future that we can build once the rocks are moved and the grass is free to grow. For Armenia, for prosperous Armenia, for conservatism, and for mankind, the best is yet to come.